This green box is about cybersecurity on board Superyachts, and we're going to hear a little bit more about it. So this is Andy. Nice to see you, Andy.
Good to see you.
So tell me a little bit about Osprey, but also the wider company vision and what you guys are about.
So we've been looking after cyber on Superyachts for quite a number of years. What we were finding is there were a few issues with trying to get cyber on board. Either their infrastructure wouldn't support it, and there were various other requirements. So what we did was take a step back and think, well, what can we do to fix it? One of the things was it needs to be easy. So with Osprey, you just plug it in, plug it into the network. It will then connect to our Security Operations Center in the Isle of Man, where our analysts will then start looking after the cyber on board that super yacht, alerting them to all sorts of things going on.
Okay, and historically, what would normally happen? So there's loads of devices on board a yacht.
Yes.
As opposed to installing different cybersecurity protection on each device. Does this kind of centralize that? So you just connect to this, and then it's not a matter of reprogramming or installing.
It's modular. So basically, with Osprey, we can have as much cyber or as little cyber as the yacht wants or can afford, and so we can then start to, as the yacht matures with its cyber, we can then start to increase the capabilities to make that yacht even more secure. Just a little bit of cyber can eradicate around 80% of the threat. But what we were finding is the ships, the AVITs, the ETOs are extremely busy. They don't have time to keep looking through the events to see what is happening on their ship. So basically, we do the cyber for them, and we keep them appraised of any situations as they develop in the cyberspace.
So for the crew on board, actually, it's a matter of having this on board and doing the setup, but then the ongoing workload, effectively computer network defense. Takes
literally. I mean, when you say setup, we post it to them, so we don't need to go on board. If they want us to come on board, we're more than happy to do so. But they often don't want the expense or the hassle of having people. Absolutely. So we can just post it off to them, and all they do is put it into their rack. And it will fit in a comms rack, it will fit on the bridge, and it's not too noisy. And all they do is plug it into the network, and we're away.
Like, it's literally plug it in, it's then within the Superyachts infrastructure, and job done.
Yeah,
you guys can take it from there.
With the monitoring side, they will need to, so if they're generating logs from their firewalls and other devices, they just point those logs at Osprey, and that will then pass them, as in PARSE. It will pass them and then pass them up to our SOC, where they're correlated. It's worth pointing out as well, one of the fears of the crew is often that we're looking at their emails, and we're not. What we're looking at is context. We're not interested in the content of what they're doing. What we're interested in is the context of what is happening.
So that way the privacy is retained, but the security is achieved.
Yeah, and with some yachts, they're saying, whatever you do, do not monitor the guests. So we can just put a filter in there, so we see absolutely nothing of the guests. Other ships, they want us just to keep a very high-level view, so that if one of the guests visits a card skimming website, they might want to know. We just then pass that to the crew, and they can decide as to how they handle that information of what's happening. But by and large, we're not there. We're not trying to be Big Brother and keeping a watch on what they're doing. We're trying to protect them from when things do go horribly wrong.
Okay, and what's the vision for this? So at the moment it's this, and then they've effectively got a cybersecurity team monitoring everything and all that support. What does this become in the next few years? I suppose in terms of the threats that Superyachts are going to face, as well as a solution, what are you guys developing and working on for this market? So
if we're just doing cyber, it can be a bit restricted. What we want to do is start to bring in the monitoring of the operational technology as well, but make sure that if we're going to monitor the operational technology, we've got to do it securely to make sure that we're not introducing another attack vector for the operational technology. So we want to start bringing in those events, and we can also, with Osprey, we can actually scan devices as well to make sure that they're not vulnerable. So we're looking, as we go forward, to try to introduce with Osprey, this is hot news, it's not been released yet, but what we want to be able to do is offer almost a launch pad. So with operational technology these days, it needs to be connected to the internet quite often, and even if someone needs to work on it remotely, it needs to be connected to the internet somehow. So we're looking to offer a bridge so that vendors can actually connect into operational technology, but we can still make sure that they do so in a secure manner.
So it's more to do with cybersecurity at the connection phase rather than the device phase, that kind of.
It's not there right now. We could do it right now, but we're doing so many other things. But it is on the roadmap for us to be able to start looking at that side of cybersecurity on a super yacht.
Yeah, and just to touch on the types of threats that super yachts are now facing, there's a lot of motives to hack a yacht, things like environmental movements, political motives, anti-wealth, all these kind of things. Combined with that brings quite advanced hackers and quite advanced technologies, because the motive is quite significant. What kind of threats are taking place now and coming up?
It's not always. People assume that hacker is going to be some spotty teenager wearing a hoodie in a basement. It's not these days. It's corporations. You get whole companies of entities that will be trying to make money through activities such as that. You've also got nation states. When you think that every super yacht is owned by an extremely wealthy person, ultra high net worth, those people are of interest to nation states. So they want to know who they are, where they're going, who they're meeting. So there is an interest from nation states, which obviously you don't get much more advanced than some of those intelligence entities. But you've got your, you mentioned about the environmentalists, journalists, and there's so many other we would call them threat actors that want to basically target those ships. And you still get your spotty teenager in Arkansas wanting to take control of a super yacht because he can.
Wow, all right. Thank you very much, Andy. Thank you very much for your insights.
Thank you. Pleasure.
Everybody, if you enjoy content like this, then make sure you're following here to see plenty more of it. Outside of that, I'll see you very soon. Bye for now.